We now move on to our first panel discussion on powerhouses behind Maharashtra's growth. For this, I invite the moderator for the session on the dais, Dr. Ajit Ranade, Senior Fellow, Pune International Center, Economist, and a member of the Maharashtra Economic Advisory Council. Put your hands together for Dr. Ranade, please. I request our other esteemed panelists to join him on the dais. Mr. Dhiraj Relli, MD and CEO, HDFC Securities Limited. Mr. Puneet Chhatwal, MD and CEO, Indian Hotels Company Limited. Mr. Ashish Pherwani, Partner, M&E, EY India. Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani, MD, Hiranandani Group. And Mr. Avinash Joshi, Chief Executive Officer, India, NTT Data. A huge round of applause for this powerhouse panel. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all of you. Thank you, Tina, for the kind introductions. And welcome to all of you to this panel, the first panel of the day. I'd like to first of all also thank Mr. Watts for his opening remarks. I just want to say a few words because I'm an old groupie of Bombay Chamber of Commerce. I live in Pune now, but at heart I'm a Mumbaikar. See, 1836, Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani also might be interested. 1836 is when you were born. It's BCCI, but not the other BCCI. It's Bombay Chamber of Commerce. But also 1836, I'd like to mention to you a few things that happened that year. This was the year when the first London railway started. Bombay Railway started in 1853, that famous first train to Kalyan, but it was 1836 when the first London Railway. It was 1836 when Texas declared independence from Mexico. More importantly, 1836 was, by the way, Bombay Municipal Corporation was born in 1870s, 1872 or something. So it was this 1836. I'm just trying to impress upon everybody the importance of this heritage called Bombay Chamber of Commerce and Industry. 1836 is also almost 20 years before Karl Marx sprung upon the world with his Communist Manifesto. Actually, the first version was in German, but the English was 1856, 1858. But more importantly, 1836 is also when Mr. Macaulay had his famous minutes, they call it, the educating the middle class Indians in English language and all. And 1836 also is, we all know this great person called Swami Vivekananda, who went to Chicago in 1893 and gave this famous speech and then came back as a triumphant modern patriot saint of India. And Swami Vivekananda, I don't need to say anything. But Swami Vivekananda was inspired by his guru, whom we've rarely talked about, whose name was Ramakrishna Paramahansa. A little, highly, mostly uneducated Bengali saint. He was born in 1836. It's an important date. So, Bombay Chamber is a very, in fairly distinguished company in terms of its origin. And you're right that you're going to celebrate 190 years. Bombay Chamber came much before all the other chambers. No, I'm not going to make any controversial references, but congratulations and thank you for hosting this summit today. So we have a very distinguished panel and my duty is simply to be a little bit like a traffic policeman. I'll try to keep your time restricted. Thank you, Mr. Chhatwal, for being here today. And, this wonderful hotel is thanks to our host, Mr. Chhatwal. What I'm going to do is there's no opening statements. We have, about 45 minutes, Meenal? 1 hour, okay. So we are not going to have any opening statements. We have a sectors like Mr. Dhiraj, who's from the BFSI, Banking Financial Services, Mr. Chhatwal, Hospitality, Mr. Niranjan from real estate and infrastructure in that sense, Mr. Pherwani from Media and Entertainment, and Mr. Joshi from IT. So very distinguished panel, but I can't help it, and Mr. Watts will notice that I'm really sorely missing the manufacturing sector. Even though construction is counted, I don't know, sometimes the RBI counts it as manufacturing and the Government of India counts it as services. So Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani straddles both the sectors. But actually, we will talk about manufacturing as well. So what I'll suggest is that we'll just ask everybody to not make an opening statement, but I have a generic question about this $1 trillion economy. You know, Maharashtra used to be, it is still the #1 state in the country in terms of its GDP output. It is still the number 2 country in terms of, I think, geographic area, if I'm not mistaken. It is still the #1 in terms of not just GDP, but in terms of contribution to manufacturing of GDP of the country. But when you think of Mumbai or Bombay, or you think about the high level things you think about is financial capital of India or entertainment capital. That's I'm not so sure about. We'll talk about that. These people from Hyderabad and Chennai, they claim that they are now the capital. But anyway, media and entertainment. So you think about financial services. You think about a highly cosmopolitan city. It's not only a city of the Thakres, salam to them, but it's actually, I believe it's one of the most cosmopolitan cities, not only in India, not only in Asia, but probably in the world. So you think about Mumbai in that sense. But what we are trying to think about is also Maharashtra as contributing 1/5 of India's GDP in the next maybe 7 or 8 years. Mr. Shri Sankhe here is very much involved in that project. I was part of the Economic Advisory Council, which prepared a report about 3 years ago, I think, a roadmap, a very detailed roadmap. If you've not seen the report, I would recommend that. It's about a 140-page report, very detailed roadmap of what we need to do in every sector and every sub-sector to get to a $1 trillion economy in a time-bound way. It's okay to say we're going to be 5 trillion economy, 1 trillion economy, if you don't specify the time, because it's going to happen. So the trick is, in the earlier days, I remember the finance minister used to say all this, but she never specified by which year. But now we insist, because we are all very hard-nosed business people, by which year. So I think it is doable in the next, say 5 or 6, 7 years, but that will require us to accelerate growth rates, and that's what the panel is going to talk about. How to get to $1 trillion economy. It's only not just the economy, by the way. When we say economy, we mean livelihoods, we mean incomes, we mean standard of life, quality of living. We mean ease of doing business. We mean quality of infrastructure. We mean air and water quality. So it's all captured in this concept called GDP. So we'll talk about that. I also want to remind everybody that most of this GDP, most of this economic activity actually is going to come from the private sector. This is something that needs repetition every time. If India is going to become a $5 trillion economy in the next 5 or 7 years, or even earlier, or if Maharashtra is going to become a $1 trillion economy in the next 5 or 7 years, it will be largely because of the contribution of the private sector. GDP is going to be majorly, it's not the government. So we look to the government for policies, we look to the government for directions, regulations, to make it easy to do business. When we say ease of doing business, we mean ease of opening a business, ease of doing a business, and ease of closing a business. So all that is required, but really the actual activity comes from the private sector. And Mr. Watts made a reference to public-private partnership, but actually the private part makes a major contribution. So with that opening, just to background, I'd like to invite, is it okay? I mean, I've not asked the panel, but can we just go in sequentially? So, Mr. Dhiraj, Relli, if you can, I want to know from you, how can the financial services sector broadly defined, because now we're talking about fintech and crypto and all the other futuristic stuff, how is that going to play a role in this roadmap to $1 trillion economy for Maharashtra? And I know that Mumbai actually is known as the financial hub, financial capital of India, but we have this another competitor called Gift City in Gandhinagar. So what are your thoughts? And I'll request all the panelists to be brief so we can cover more questions. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, Ajit. Thank you for setting the context. And the 1 trillion will happen actually if we look at the normal pace by 2032. If we go for an accelerated growth, we can achieve it by 2030 for sure. But aspirations at the government level are to achieve it by 2028. I heard Chief Minister saying about it. I think it's a daunting task, but achievable. Coming back to the financial services space, banking and financial services space, Ajit just rightly articulated that Mumbai, in particular, is a financial hub or financial capital of India. And in last 2.5 decades, we have seen tremendous growth in the banking and financial services sector, with the participation coming in from private sector banks and a lot of new players in the insurance, asset management, broking, and non-banking financial services side. So it's not just about the fintechs, it's also about the opening of these sectors for all players. And we have seen financialization of savings as a theme playing out in a big way. Just to quote some data points, about 5 years ago, we had just about 5 crore demat accounts, and now the demat accounts have crossed 20 crores in India. So that's just happened in last 5 years. I thought I'll just give you one data point. And when it comes to the contribution of banking and financial services industry in Maharashtra and in particularly in Mumbai, I think it is a catalyst for a growth in multiple ways. We are able to attract the best talents from all over India and also across the world. When you attract the best talent in the banking and financial services space, you are actually able to drive the growth for real estate, both commercial as well as residential space. So it led to an augmentation of demand in real estate sector. It created jobs. It is also an indirect employer for various other jobs also, because there's a cascading impact of the banking and financial services industry when it comes to creating jobs and creating the vibrancy in the city. So that way, I think BFSI have been a significant contributor. Services sector has contributed 59% of Maharashtra GDP. Within that, banking and financial services is one sector that is a large contributor. I looked at the data. 11% of the GVA, gross value added, comes from the banking and financial services industry. So my take is that this will really be a catalyst for a significant growth. We'll create jobs, we'll create the whole growth ecosystem for the Maharashtra and in particularly for Mumbai.
So I want to just take advantage of the freshness of thought. I'll go sequentially, but very quickly, I'd like to ask you, you mentioned real estate. Of course, we're going to hear much more from Mr. Hiranandani. See, the aspiration for a typical Mumbaikar or Maharashtra person is to own a house or own a flat, own a dwelling. But I believe when you say financialization, I can't afford to buy a full flat. I'd like to buy 1,000th of a flat. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So how is your financial sector going to help me realize my dream of owning a little piece of this real estate pie without actually owning a flat? Ek mutti, kya bolte hain, ek mutti asman. So I'm talking about REITs and stuff like that.
I know, I get that very clearly. I think when it comes to owning the financial instruments, direct equity mutual fund has enabled part ownership through multiple routes of debt, equity, and other asset classes. REITs and InvITs are other instrument that has enabled us to have a part ownership of real estate, not only residential real estate, but also the highways and commercial real estate also. So InvITs are going to play a significant role in the development of India and more so in the Maharashtra. Like we have NHAI InvIT, Maharashtra can have a state InvIT also. Like we have Power Grid InvIT, Maharashtra can have a power transmission InvITs also. That way they can augment huge capital and at the same time accelerate the infrastructure development also. So part ownership is now viable. These are new instruments, but I think...
Is your industry popularizing? How about the Aam Aadmi? How will they get to know how I can participate in this?
There is an IPO going on right now also, and all wealth managers are introducing this as an alternative asset class to investors. As of now, only limited ultra HNIs who are looking at this as an asset class, but it's only a matter of time. it will have an exponential growth also. So these are good instruments with the capital appreciation and reasonable safety of the capital also.
Thank you, thank you. I'm not going to push you. This is a SEBI disclosure. We are not trying to promote any IPOs here. Mr. Puneet, thank you again for, this is a wonderful property of one of India's and globally iconic brand name. Mr. Amitabh Kant and a few others in the last few days, we never mentioned that word, by the way, the person who's making us react every morning. But I'm told that the tourism sector, now that India is trying to react to all this tariff action, it is said that tourism is a very big promising sector, not just for India, but for Maharashtra as well. And you are right in the middle of that. So what do you see as not just the contribution, but the roadmap? I mean, in terms of how do you see this thing evolving and where would the challenges be? Now, I know that you are in various parts of this. The Ginger is something like a little mid-tier, and there's the high-end Taj properties and probably many other things. And you are one of the fastest growing and highly valued by the market. But we are talking about hospitality in its very broad sense, not just hotels, but tourism and religious tourism, heritage tourism. They're talking about irrigation. If you have irrigated rural heartland, you can have homestays where people come to get that rural experience. So can you please comment on all aspects of this tourism and hospitality?
Good morning and thank you, Ajit. That's a very broad question. Let me start on a very practical note. On your previous question to Dhiraj, Ek muthi asman is what you said, right? Like owning a part of the thing. Here is a practical proposal. The Bombay Chamber can lobby for something which you call fractional ownership of hotels. Mr. Hiranandani will identify the land in Alibag and build it. Dhiraj can finance it. Ashish can do the feasibility study, his colleagues from his group, and we'll be very happy to operate it. Now, whether you want to call it Taj or you want to take some restaurants of President, as there is nothing in Alibag. So if you want Thai Pavilion, Trattoria, we'll bring it all there. But we don't need to wait for IPOs. It's right in front of you. The opportunity is right there. On a serious note now, tourism is one of the biggest opportunity that India has been sitting on for a very long time now. It's very normal that when you gain independence in the first 50 years, is focused more on employment and, the phase of roti, kapda or makan, right? That is one phase. After that, we come to the next 25 years, and that's India at 75, is a very different India. It's a very aspirational India, which likes to grow businesses, but at the same time also wants to spend time with family, friends, enjoy, and also celebrate social events like weddings, right? So there is a fundamental customer need that needs to be satisfied. It's not the old school luxury hospitality only. It's not limited to that. That's how the sector started. And the hotels were built for occasions. So I started my career at the Ashok Hotel, which was built for a big event in the 50s. Then came a next phase of growth in the 80s for the Asian Games. Then came the Commonwealth Heads of Meets, non-aligned meet, Commonwealth Games, more recently G20. Right? Every time this sector rises to the occasion and then somehow it fizzles out because of whatever reasons that have not been recognized. Globally, 1 out of every 4 new jobs are coming from this sector. It is the highest multiplicator of jobs. In order to capitalize on the demographic dividend that India has, we need jobs. Otherwise, it could create a very difficult social situation. I think on a positive side, what has happened on the infrastructure investment, the renaissance of the train stations, the building of the new airports, doubling of the airports, the new highways, which also Mr. Vats mentioned about Atal Setu and the coastal road, etc. All this is a very important catalyst for tourism and hospitality, and we have been benefiting from that. But what would help is when the states and center work together. So that's the very important point. The name of this event is Infrastructure Conclave. For reasons best known to an era before the current government, hospitality was taken out, or a cap was put in for it to be an infrastructure status. So hospitality does not enjoy the infrastructure status, not yet. It has infrastructure status limited to some small areas with very low population based on a consensus of a long time, like 15, 20 years ago. Not 1836, but more recently, like 2006 or 7. The second thing that is needed is not only you don't get infrastructure status at the center level, we don't have the proper execution of industry status at a state level, which means you are the highest tax sector, where the cost of utilities that you have is also the highest. So the taxes you pay is the highest. For a sector which is low paid and is the highest multiplicator of jobs. So there is a contradiction out there. Now there's no point, I'm not here to complain. I'm just stating a fact.
And the tax issue is union government. So the Maharashtra government can't do much about the taxation part.
No, industry status is Maharashtra government, right? So that is that is a state subject. I'm not saying it's not given. In theory, it is given, but it has to be executed upon. Finally, I think very important is to align yourself in what the government calls the mission mode. For example, in the speech of Honorable Finance Minister on the budget, 50 new destinations were announced. If Maharashtra is going to contribute 20% of India's future GDP, let's aim for 10%, which means 5 of those destinations could be in Maharashtra, whether they are for wine tourism, or they are for Ajanta Ellora, or they are for business tourism, because we don't talk about business tourism. When people come on business, they extend their stay by a few days to also coming from outside of India to get to know India better. And develop those in a mission mode with the government, because for that the infrastructure status was announced, and that will foster a huge amount of growth. So a lot can be done. A lot is being done, and when it comes to our own company, we have 45 hotels today in Maharashtra, what we used to have as a total in entire India 25, 30 years ago. On top of that, we have 55 homestays, which takes our total presence to around 100. We have a homestay brand called Ama Stays and Trails. So we have it all over. There are areas that are currently being pushed by the government, and we are at the forefront of it to develop, like Sindhu Durg is one of those that we think can become a great alternative to Goa, and even a nicer alternative to Goa, the Konkan region. There is a lot to do on the business side in Mumbai. We just built a year and a half ago the Ginger at Santa Cruz, and it's been a runaway success. We could do 20 more Ginger properties in Mumbai, and that will not suffice. We would need more. We have one in Goregaon, we have one in Andheri MIDC, Andheri Teligali. This Santa Cruz property, we have none in Churchgate, none in, there's so many areas that we can develop this kind of brands. And that means a lot of investment. We will be making a significant investment with the Taj Bandstand, which was erstwhile called the Sea Rock. That will create a very different infrastructure together with Land's End, together with the road infrastructure, creating a venue for up to 1,000 people to hold an event, a conference. That means you will be attracting international people. See what Jio has done to Mumbai. So the opportunity that we are sitting on is immense. Okay. My only closing remark on this would be, we should not limit it to tourism and going here and there for a weekend. Business is as important as holidays, domestic is as important as international visitors, and the sector has to be viewed more as a contributor today from 6-7% to Maharashtra GDP, which should be aspirational to go to at least 12%, if not 14%.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, absolutely. And you're absolutely right that this is the highly creation intensive sector. And in fact, the Taj brand, again, I'm not a spokesperson, but they create like a benchmark. But I just want to quickly follow up on a couple of things. In Maharashtra, we have a very unique endowment of what are called forts, the Shivaji era forts. And they are very popular destinations. You said not just for tourism, but this is called adventure tourism. Some of the other sites are religious tourism and so on. But, you know, until recently, the infrastructure there was not at all supportive of good quality day trips or overnight trips. And then additionally, there are two other factors. One is what is called the stampede factor. You know, unfortunately, we have these events sometimes when there's a stampede at this site, and the other thing is safety. That I wish there were more women in the audience today, but we have a fair representation. But when you talk about travel, whether for business or tourism, single women traveling, let's say if not in India, at least in Maharashtra, these two factors, the fort tourism, the adventure tourism, and the safety of single travelers, especially women.
See, safety in a Tata Group company is absolutely paramount. That's how all board meetings start with. First is safety and security, and then comes to POSH, and then comes to whistleblower, and then comes to the normal agenda. So I think that part, from a governance point of view, I think it is a conditio sine qua non. Every serious company with good governance must follow that, and safety of women, if it's not there, tourism can never develop, and hospitality will also not do. So we do a lot of things for making sure that none of those incidents happen, and up till now, none, to the best of my knowledge, have happened, at least in any of our properties or hotels. The second one was related to the fort and other areas. See, I think just like infrastructure, you need a certain system to get things done. And this takes me back to almost, let's say, 27, 28 years ago. I got it wrong. 36 years ago, when German reunification happened. And a few years later, after the reunification, the government came up with a program for rebuilding the former East. And that system worked. So today, if you go to the former East of Germany, it actually looks much nicer and a modern version of what was called the West Germany. And from our side, what we can do, to give an example, we have adopted the Bandra Fort opposite Land's End. We do the cleaning there. We do the cleaning of all the beaches. But that's fine. That is relying on one or the other organization. But you need to have a kind of a policy in which maybe you can offset a part of your taxes by investing into, forget the forts. Look at how many beautiful buildings are in south of Mumbai. If they get restored, it could look beautiful than in any other comparable city in Europe. But the cost of doing so without any incentive out there is very difficult, and we understand the needs and wants of the nations are diverse. But some of these things can bring in far more revenue going forward if a proper structure is created, so that it's on an autopilot. It's not dependent on Mr. Hiranandani to do so, or a certain bank to do so, or a certain organization to do so. That would be my humble take.
But this is something I think Bombay Chamber should focus on, that there is a really great potential. Let me move on to Mr. Hiranandani, and you're the, figuratively and actually even you're in the center today. So real estate, as you know, commercial, residential, is in China, it contributes 30% of their GDP. And this is one of the large economies, fast-growing economies. So the potential for real estate is huge, and I don't need to emphasize it to this audience or even to you. There's so many aspects to it. There is from the point of view of the consumer, ek muthi asman jisko chahiye, I just want to own some PL for build a home, or from the financier point of view or investor, Mr. Chhatwal is hospitality sector, but and then there is where I want to live. I want to be close. My children should go to a good school. But I also want to have a good commute, easy commute to work. Otherwise, the hell of going several hours in traffic. So this is really it encompasses all aspects of our lives. And yet this is also a sector which is going to be a major contributor to this vision of $1 trillion economy. We are seeing rapid changes even in a very short period of time. Mr. Watts mentioned the transportation aspect, but things like service apartments, things like short-term, condominium ownerships, that Naina project. So what are some of what do you see happening in the next 4-5 years in terms of a realistic expectation in this sector and its relevance to Maharashtra's economy?
First of all, we can achieve the $1 trillion economy in Maharashtra. We have to understand that that is what we are going to do, and it will happen. Once you decide that, all the steps that you need to take for the purposes of it, I think, has to be done. Roti, kapda, makan. If you don't give a house and shelter to a person, and then you talk about the $5 trillion economy, it's nonsense. So I think we have to focus on housing, not only for all the other segments, but also for the affordable segments. So the first target should be that all the slums of Mumbai should go. And that can be a 7-year target, and it's possible to do so. Number 2, that infrastructure improvements have taken place. We have 35 kilometers of national highway per day. Mumbai metropolitan region, we had 190 kilometers of Western Railway, Central Railway and Harbour Line for 65 years. In the next 2 years, we will add 300 kilometers of metro operational. 300 kilometers of metro operational. We have a coastal road. We have a cross-harbour bridge. We have the Ro-Ro connectivity. We will also have a bullet train completed. We have the Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor, which will be done. And we will be the center of gravity of all these aspects of it that is done. Today, we contribute 8% of GDP at the $3 trillion economy. As per Niti Aayog, in the next 4 years, real estate and infrastructure will contribute between 15 and 20% of GDP in the economy. And if that is so, when we have a $5 trillion economy, real estate and infrastructure will be $1 trillion economy only in the real estate and infrastructure state. The second aspect of it, which was addressed, is really a big concern. And the concern is that when you have the rich and famous and the top, how do you address employment? That's where I think Mr. Puneet Chhatwal touched the right chord. Let's take the issue of real estate. We are short today by 2 million workers short of skill development. We have unemployment on one side, and we are 2 million workers short in real estate. A company called L&T, CEO made a statement 2 months ago or 3 months ago. He said, my company is 25,000 skilled workers short, and they have 17 skilling centers in L&T. Niranjan Hiranandani's company is 500 skilled workers short today. So we are there. So we have a contradiction, A, in the housing sector, in the employment sector. Let's take a comparison of China. When China grew double-digit GDP growth, it grew because of real estate housing, infrastructure. Infrastructure includes airports, ports and others, and national highways, and bullet trains. If we focus on all these aspects of it, we will not be 6.2, 7.2. We'll be 10.2. If you want to achieve the date, which is earlier than what was mentioned earlier, it will happen and it can happen. But you have to focus 2 things: infrastructure, employment, skilling of those people, giving them jobs, because we don't want wealth of a nation and not have a house. The richest city in India, 50% population lives in Jhopatpatti. What a contradiction. We don't want to live that when we reach $5 trillion economy. So we have to be careful that while we have the Taj palaces, he also talks about the ginger. Because you want those people also to get good, clean hotels when they travel, not just the top end of the market. So we are going to achieve our $5 trillion economy. Maharashtra will and shall achieve its $1 trillion economy. There are too many gaps to achieve it. You mentioned one where infrastructure status for hotels are not being done. Real estate is also not being given infrastructure status. We need to do that. What does it need? Just a statement, and the changes will take place. So, skilling. We talk about skilling. I skill 3,000 people every year, the poorest of poor. The government talks about a big skilling program. They pay me for 200. I don't need the money. But the question is, if my system of skilling is not getting financed, I want to skill 20,000 workers, not 3,000. So we have to address gaps. The last mile connectivity to his hotel, to the factory that's put up. I've spent 5,000 crores on a factory. The last road is not getting connected. When that road doesn't get connected, nobody wants to. There's extortion of the local authorities and other people to connect that road. We have to be very careful that when we have the big picture and big talk, the small problems which actually prevent us from achieving the targets is something which we are not talking about. So while we talk about the big picture and the big people achieving big targets, including the state governments and all of us sitting over here, we have to address all these issues and point out that if it is these small things are not focused upon, whether it's skill development, whether it is slum rehabilitation, whether it is done by Mr. Adani or it's done by the state government, it is done by Hiranandani, it doesn't matter. We have to achieve these targets. We cannot afford to do whatever it is. If these 2 million workers were skilled, for instance today, everybody would get 3x the amount. So if you get 150 rupees as an unskilled worker, you will get 4 times more, 600 rupees a day if you're a skilled. And what is this skill? Carpenter, fitter, plumber, mason, barbender. Nothing that is so great to learn.
Let me...
what we are looking for, I'm sorry, I'll just conclude in a half a second. What we are looking for is to say, here's the big picture, but the responsibility is to see when investments are made, the last one. You're making all these metro terminuses. The distance from the terminus to go to your office is not even conceived. How we are going to do it? So when 300 kilometers of metro are going to be operational, how are you going to go when I get down from the metro and I want to go to my place? What is that connectivity going to do? There's no footpath available. Yeah. You forget transport. There's no footpath. When I get down, the footpaths are full of payment hawkers next to it. How are you going to use the metro? So that part of the connectivity has to be thought through and said, I want this successful because we have put the investment, and number two, that we need to do it. But reaching the target, we will get. Let's look at the other aspects of it along with that.
So let me just ask you about 2 things that you identified, very crucial bottlenecks. One is the skilling, the skill gap, the skill deficit. And the second is the importance of planning. In fact, as you know, now PMRD has been announced, Pune Metropolitan Regional Development Authority, and Shirish Sankhe is very much involved in that. And there too, the metro network is rapidly spreading. But again, the issue of what happens from the metro station to your place of residence or place of work. So do you have any thoughts on how this skill deficit, because the National Skill Development Corporation was set up, 15 years ago, under the then chairmanship of Mr. Ramadurai for an ambitious target of 500 million skilled Indians. But 15 years later, we realized that's not probably the way to go. What, in the real estate sector, your company does it, you said, and L&T is, is there a model which will rapidly bridge this skilling gap, at least for the real estate sector? What is the model? Is it that the private, more skilling centers?
It has to be the private players who will participate in this, and it has to be the people who are actually doing the work already. They need to be incentivized to see that it is done. So if I'm a contractor, whether I'm doing national highway or I'm making a private building or whatever it is, if I skill these number of people at the end of the day, who will at the end of the day get certified to be skilled workers. So I'm a certified plumber at the end of the day, a certified electrician. Can you imagine all these fellows who fix your electrical stuff? They come to your house and they don't know how to do it. And you're going to have a big fire in a big place just because you have a guy who calls himself an electrician, and you don't know whether he's an electrician, but he knows how to splice two wires and comes over there and creates a problem for you. Plumbers, peepers, waterproofing guys, I mean, they don't know because they're not trained for it. So if we can do all this, and the private sector can do it, the government has to collaborate. You talk about PPP of airports and other roads and other things. You need PPP for training workers. That's all.
Human capital, yeah. Okay, great. So let me just move on to Mr. Ashish Pherwani. Media and entertainment. And as I said, Mumbai, when you think about Mumbai, you think about the entertainment capital, which I think is seriously under threat from some of the southern capitals. So how can this media and entertainment drive growth for Maharashtra's economy?
So firstly, thank you for having me, and I'm honored to be on a panel like this with these dignitaries. Everyone talks about media and entertainment, and India is Bombay is a creative hub of this country. But first we must set things in perspective. How big is the media and entertainment sector? I think when you look at the whole sector, TV, OTT, events, animation, gaming, VFX, post-production, radio, everything put together, it's about 1/4's turnover of Reliance Industries. So it's a very small sector. It makes a lot of noise, but it's actually just a really small sector. Having said that, the amount of potential that is there for the sector to contribute to Maharashtra's 1 trillion economy is, I think, several times its current size. And I'll explain how I've come to that conclusion. So the sector, $29 billion in 2024, all across India. The United States, Canada, and Europe spent $300 billion producing content every year. We are 29 billion as a country. They just on content spend $300 billion. Roughly 30 to 35% of that, so about $100 billion, 90 to $100 billion, is what we call behind the camera. This is what happens after you shoot the scene. Everything else that happens, the editing, the post-production, the VFX, the animation, the dubbing, the subtitling, the meta-tagging, the formatting, the contracts, the royalties, all of that piece is $90 to $100 billion. And you don't need fair skin to take advantage of that. All that can actually be outsourced into a country like India, where we have today 2.8 million skilled people in media and entertainment, plus many more skilled people in the IT side who are working with Google and Amazon and Wipro and TCS. I think what is required, it's such an obvious thing, you'd say, so why hasn't this already happened? Why is India not even taking a 10% share? That's another $10 billion just right off the bat. I think there are 2-3 things that we can look at doing from a Maharashtra point of view. And I'm specifying Maharashtra because Maharashtra is truly blessed. Out of our national M&E economy, I would posit more than 30% comes from Maharashtra. We've just had, we are sitting 5 kilometers, 7 kilometers away from, Film City right now. And we have one of the largest ecosystems of content production in the world right here today. So why are we not able to do this? I think 3 things. First, I don't think the industry has got together and pitched India at that volume. It's so sad when you look at it, when the first Avatar came out, one of the biggest films ever made, India did the post-production and VFX for that movie. We didn't get Avatar 2, The Way of Water. Why is that? We have not invested in IP. And when I mean IP, I don't mean content IP, I mean tech IP used to do things like how does a scene look underwater, and how does the fur of a lion move when you're talking about animation. We've just not invested in IP because it is truly extremely expensive. But if we don't make that investment in tech IP for media, we're going to lose Avatar 3 as well. So we have to go and focus a lot on creating tech IP for media and entertainment. That's point one. Point number two, I was talking to the India head of ILM, the Industrial Light and Magic, the Disney, one of the biggest, bestest companies in VFX and post-production. And she told me something very interesting. She said they had an open contest, and they run these hackathons, and they run these training centers and everything. And they said, we wanted to hire 20 top-end artists to support Disney's latest products abroad. A few hundred people applied because it's ILM. Everyone's going to apply for ILM. They hired zero. Zero. They couldn't hire a single person out there because they said none of them had any knowledge of what the latest techniques were abroad. So while we do have Whistling Woods and they do a terrific job, and I'm really hopeful now that the new IICT that's coming up is going to add to that, I think while we are skilling everyone, it's still a low-end skilling that's happening in media and entertainment. We have to take the game up and make it much, much more specific and future ready. And I'm seriously, I have a lot of hope on the IICT. I've seen the enthusiasm which the government is putting into this new technology institute. Hopefully we'll see that gaining scale as well. And the third thing really is, and I have to say, we recently did this report on the Coldplay concert. I don't know if any of you guys saw that report. It was on the socio-economic impact of the Coldplay concert on the city of Ahmedabad. So this was just the 2 shows that happened in Ahmedabad. Those 2 shows created GDP of over 600 crores. All right, because yes, you will have ticket sales and F&B sales and merchandise sales of 200, 250, whatever crores out there. But we realized that 80% of the audience flew in from other places or took a train or self-drove down. More than 50 to 60% of them extended their stay. So in your hotels and your properties, they stayed for another 2 days. They went and met friends. They did sightseeing. And simple things like that. I think Mr. Chhatwal beautifully said, look what NMACC has done to Mumbai. We need 10 more in Mumbai. We need 1,000 more in India. It's so sad, but India does just 1,000 large exhibitions a year. A country like us, we should be doing 1,000 exhibitions a month.
Yeah.
So I'm saying there are, again, a lot of gaps, as you said, Mr. Hiranandani, that we have to fill pure basic infrastructure gaps in venues, in technology IP, and of course, very importantly, in top-end skilling. I think we can double, triple the size of the industry over the next 4 or 5 years, at least.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I think this skilling thing is coming back, similar theme that Mr. Hiranandani also said, that skill gap. You mentioned that Maharashtra's initiative of setting up the institute is a step in the right direction. And of course, I'm glad you pointed out that this industry, by the way, media and entertainment broadly defined, he emphasized the export potential. In fact, this is a very, very, just like tourism, is actually an export industry. Also, can be a significant, I'd like to mention, Mr. Chhatwal, that the number one, this is a pre-pandemic statistic, but I think it's still valid. The number one outbound tourists in the world are the Chinese. 137 or 140 million Chinese go out of China for tourism. And guess how many come to India? 50,000. Not even 0.1%. And we know this number because the visas are issued in Beijing and Shanghai. I mean, after Galwan, things changed. But now why is it that the Chinese, we cannot even attract 1% of the Chinese? Because each of them is going to spend some $1,000 maybe. And, but similarly, I'm glad, Mr. Ashish, you mentioned the export potential. So we'll move on to Mr. Avinash Joshi. Mr. Joshi, just by way of anecdote data point to you, I recently met somebody. She had an elderly, her mother is elderly, and geriatric care. This is a very, very big area, by the way. That's from Maharashtra to Bombay Chamber. Please look at it. It's an extremely important, fast-growing sector. India will have more than 250 million elderly people. and the requirement, the demand for geriatric care. So the data point for you is that there was this young girl who was doing really good, excellent service to this grandmother, and just, we asked her what was her qualification. She was a B.Tech in computer science. So B.Tech in computer science, doing nursing care to an elderly. She said, my job in the IT industry, I was getting 20,000 rupees per month or 25,000 entry job. I'm getting 50,000, and the job is. So it's not a boring job, but it's of course. So this is the reality of the IT services sector. That on one hand, it is India's #1 export potential. I mean, it's fantastic growth. I mean, India has made a mark in the world. Of course, not to forget that now TCS has laid off 12,000 people and so on, and in the age of AI and automation. So how do you see, and people, Bengaluru, they try to grow and they try to publicize the fact that they are the IT capital, but actually very silently, Pune and Mumbai are also significant contributors. But going ahead, there's so many challenges. The fact that entry-level jobs are still paying the same what they paid 20 years ago. The fact that we have probably an excess supply of at least the conventional skills, conventional graduates, and how to deal with the challenges of AI. So how can this be exploited for the growth of Maharashtra?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And first of all, thank you for having me here. I think the pace at which technology is now moving, it's unprecedented. And with ChatGPT, some of us have started experiencing it, but nowadays, IT or technology is not anymore a back office function. I mean, if you look at the growth what we had, Dhiraj was talking about, 20+% CAGR overall, right? All these businesses now are becoming a technology businesses for a couple of reasons. One is, the amount of data which is being created, whether you are in the real estate sector, whether you are a hotelier, whether you are an entertainment company, 80% of that data is getting created in last 2-3 years. And that data now allows all of us not only to manage our back office, but also look at the front office, whether it's your customer's experience, segmentation, employee experience, socio-economic factors, so on and so forth, right? Now, the skills issue, what you just talked about, we will have to recognize that with the advent of AI and the pace at which it is moving, the skills which were very relevant for us as an Indian economy for last, let's say, 10 years, they are going to get disrupted. The growth, we
can't do body shopping anymore.
The growth what we got, I mean, we were world's back office for longest time. I mean, our export of software and services is about $250 billion, so that's not small. That is going to get under question. So I think as a government, economy, private enterprises, we will have to seriously look at what skills are required 5 years from now. My son works for one of the, chip company in US, and the conversation we were having is what he does today as a work, in 5 years' time, that will be done by AI. So even after doing, a graduation from premier colleges and having a decent job, it is going to come under question, right? So, so there is a disruption happening. At the same time, there is also an opportunity. We talked about safety. Think about nowadays you have this, emergency button in all the Olas and Ubers of the car, right? That is all about technology. I mean, what we call IoT, Internet of Things. Where does that data go? Where does that sit? If you look at Maharashtra and Bombay especially, this is really a data center capital for India. In spite of not having a cheap real estate per se, right? And why is that happening? Because it's not only about, just the cost of land, but also the quality of power you get in our state, or the skills availability, or the captive clients. I mean, the whole financial services segment is in Mumbai, right? So the whole IT, I think we will have to recognize that we have to get IT leading the business and not enabling the business. And that's what we got to just, recognize.
Do data centers add to employment though? Are they employment intensive data centers?
That's right. So data, so one is the skilled labor or skilled employment, what we got. I mean, IT sector in India employs roughly about 60 lakh people. Okay, I mean, Maharashtra's share is about 20% of that, like always. We think that with the advent of whole technology and IT, this employment will grow in leaps and bounds, provided we invest in the right skills. Because the skills what we were investing in the past, they will become irrelevant in some time. I also think, I mean, look at some of the developed economies, the contribution of technology to those GDPs is roughly about 10-11%. I mean, if you go to Japan, it is even higher. India's contribution is about 6-7%, so which means
we can double.
Yeah, which means there is still scope for us to make it even more IT led, right? And then look at our demographics. That comes as a huge help for us. What has happened in the telecom, where we leapfrogged the technology. I mean, while everybody else was trying to, grapple with 2G, we already started with 3G and now we are at 5G, right? So we have that advantage of leapfrogging the technology, and same is the case for, AI, right? Okay. So this is where I guess, both government and private sector will have to think through how do you leverage the whole IT opportunity.
I mean, are you worried about this Maharashtra losing some of their companies to Karnataka with all this discussion in Hinjewadi?
I mean, the short answer is yes. Of course, I'm worried. But I think it is. It's not something which is unsurmountable as a problem.
Yeah.
I think you just got to get right policies, ease of doing business. How do you make sure that the businesses and entrepreneurship? I mean, Maharashtra has so many startups, right? How do you make sure that entrepreneur spirit gets nourished, right? And what kind of funding support you give? We don't have a lack of innovative minds in our country, right? It's just that we got to foster them.
In fact, they're tackling it on a war footing. So we have a few minutes left, so I do want to give a chance to the audience to ask questions. So we will now throw it open. I request you to keep your question very brief and, if possible, point it to the panelists. Yeah. Do we have a roaming mic? So we can start with the gentleman in the middle. Do you have a roaming mic, or you can take my mic? So while we wait for that question, quickly, Mr. Chhatwal, I wanted to ask you this question. I mentioned the Chinese statistic that they don't come to India. And one of the issues, I believe, is also about, we talked about women's safety, single women traveling, about cleanliness. I mean, Taj, of course, sets the benchmark. Hygiene and cleanliness. For example, women's toilets, when you're traveling. What's the approach for that? I mean, somehow this impression, or when you go to some of these destinations, it's wonderful to go for religious tourism, but people always say, "Oh, bathroom kahan pe hai? Toilet kahan pe hai?"
It's not as bad anymore. I think the current government has taken a lot of initiatives. I have seen the change, Swachh Bharat, and I've seen the change happening in, let's say, the holy city of Banaras. If you go now around the Ghat and go to the temple and back versus 7-8 years ago, the differences of day and night, at least I have experienced it that way. So many such places. It's a journey that you embark upon. There's not like a switch, you switch on and off and everything comes. It's an important factor, and China had a bigger growth a bit earlier. And honestly, I don't blame them, because it will be the same in India. When we reach 100 million people going out, the Chinese will be sitting and saying we don't get 1% of that. They're all going to Paris and London and Switzerland. So it's just the way life is. So.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Go ahead. The middle person in the middle. Can you please quickly give the mic to this person? No, first this person, he raised the mic. Yeah. He raised it. Wait first. Yeah, please go ahead. Please be brief.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Subramanya. I'm a founder of Aquacraft, a water sustainability company. Taking cue from the last question that you asked, Puneet, and taking cue from Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani, back to basics. Water and sanitation infrastructure in Maharashtra is still very, despite Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Leave alone the interior of Maharashtra. From Nariman Point to Dahisar, there's only one public toilet in Worli. Yeah, very recently, after a lot of pitching, Government of Maharashtra.
Let me ask that question to Mr. Hiranandani.
Yeah. No, what I'm trying to say is that while we talk about every other infrastructure, water and sanitation infrastructure, sustainable water and sanitation infrastructure, still needs a lot of this thing. Silver lining is, after a lot of this thing, PWD has given us a mandate right now to put 400 toilets on state highways for women as a part of Jan Suvidha Kendra. But my question is, there should be a larger impetus.
Yeah, quick comment on that.
So we have the plans for everything. We have a Pinjal River project, which if implemented, which will cost you about 12,000 crores, will give you 24/7 water for the whole Mumbai metropolitan region for the next 20 years without fail. The point is we have to start that project. So we have the planning and we need to get that execution in time. Fortunately for Maharashtra, out of the 5 things which Mr. Devendra Fadnavis took off, he took off the metro, he took off the Cross-Harbour Bridge, the Navi Mumbai Airport, the coastal road, the metro. But this particular one is still to take off. So out of the projects which he had initiated when he first became Chief Minister, this was missing. Is missing in terms of final implementation. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that the thought process in infrastructure has come out in a very good way. We know what we want to do, and large number of plans and ideas are already put into place. If you're talking about slums, as I said, we started with Dharavi and we had Mr. Adani to take it up and we are moving that. But the entire Dharavi is only 12 to 15% of the total slums. We have 85% remaining.
Yeah.
Why are we only looking at Dharavi? We need to look at the balance 85%. Let Mr. Adani handle the problem of the 15% that he's looking after.
Yes.
So what is needed is what you have said is correct. What is getting done? Wonderful, salam hai, very good, shabash, clap your hands, give them flags, thank the politician, thank the investors, thank the money, whatever is available. What has been the change? That is what we must recognize. The recognition is that in 65 years, the center and state government spent 30,000 crores in Mumbai's infrastructure. In 5 years, they are going to spend 3 lakh crores. So there is a change. Now the question is, if you want to be $1 trillion and you want to be the leading state in the country and you want to be the world global capital and you also want all the IT people to be in Maharashtra, then you have to cover those points which you are mentioning. So you have done 5. You have got lots of lovely hotels and other things. I've got some projects which are done. That's not enough to make the finality. For instance, education. What you do? The South Mumbai, I've seen 4 schools in corporation which are closed down. 4 of them have 15 students each. Now the question is, do PPP, do whatever it is, get education off the ground and take it to the next level. These are the gaps now we need to focus on. So the big picture is wonderful. We have the picture. The Prime Minister is fantastic. The road network is working. Investments is happening. We took 70% of all the investments which we did, we got from Japan, JICA, at 0.1% interest. Nobody knows that. We did a miracle in Maharashtra to be able to get those funds. So when we say large work is getting done, I'm very happy about it and we love it. What is not getting done will prevent us from actually being number 1 or being the best in the world or doing whatever it is and making chips to come in Maharashtra to really do it. Do we know that India produces more data today than China and United States put together. But we store only 20% of the data. That's what he didn't say. It's stored overseas. If you only put the data centers sufficient to put our data for the next 5 years, we have to expand by 500 times the quantum. And of course, he will tell you that with the new chips, you need less space. So you need less real estate from me, but you can do more in much smaller space.
Let's go to the next. Yeah, please, quickly.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Pramod Shah, President of Bombay Management Association and former Chairman of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India and active member of Bombay Chamber. So there is I would like any of the panelists to throw some light on the audit and the monitoring aspects of the infrastructure projects with regard to deadline and the escalation, sir. And one small question to Mr. Puneet. So you have been putting hotels for 5-star, 7-star. How about the lower middle class and the middle class, sir? Thank you.
The second question was about, but he did mention Ginger. What is the outlook for the lower end hotels, 3-star, 2-star?
I think the panel has been unanimous, not just hotels, anything as Mr. Hiranandani just now mentioned has to address the needs and wants also of the 85% and not the 15% only. We are doing the same. The fastest growth in hotels is coming in the mid-market or below. Today, luxury hotels represent less than 10% of the total accommodation supply in India. That's just a fact.
Last two questions, please. Yeah. Please go
Good morning to everybody. I'm Dr. Abhay Bambole, Professor of Structural Engineering from VJTI. My question is focused to Mr. Hiranandani. Currently, we are producing around 500 million tons of the cement. And we are, putting around 300 to 350 million tons of the carbon CO2 into the atmosphere. When we grow, India grows 5 trillion. Okay, this particular 500 million tons of the cement will go to the 1,000 million tons, and again 1/5 in Maharashtra.
Yeah.
So me and my students we are working in green cement and the green concrete. So we also have to worry about sustainable cement and other material. More importantly, aggregates also. We are not much working towards recycle aggregates.
So reducing the carbon footprint. So I think we'll take the next second question and answer them together. That lady, please. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Deepika Panchmatia, partner in law firm. My question to Mr. Hiranandani is, I wanted to ask very practical question. Sir, what basic or biggest challenge you face for the development of project? Is it legal compliance, financing? Because as a lawyer, I feel there are so many compliance part, and what government actually is doing to streamline the process.
Okay.
If it is redevelopment, then different compliance. So are we really doing anything or?
So ladies first. So I'll answer your question first.
Very briefly, please. Yeah.
So the answer is very simple. Ease of doing business is wonderful top down. Bottom up, it's horrible. So we need to do both a top down and a bottom up approach. At the Delhi level, Prime Minister and other things and all those things, the ease of doing business is experienced and speeded up maybe 1 billion times. At the bottom level, we are still bad. Yeah. And I think that needs to be taken care. I think that answers your question.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
As far as sustainability is concerned, the Prime Minister has committed to reach Paris norms much faster than every other country. We are handicapped. The Western countries finish their infrastructure. They don't need to make ports, airports, industry, housing, and all that. All this has carbon footprint. So we are challenged when we do development. But you have to understand that those countries are actually creating more carbon footprint than we are. In spite of that fact, we have committed to do better than them. So we are looking at all these aspects of it, but you can't tell us don't do development because of carbon footprint. The second part of the answer to sustainability is that there are solutions which get stuck for political reasons. That's horrible. For example, the environment in the NCR region, there's a question of the farmers who are burning those crops. the investment is only 2,000 crores in buying threshers and giving them all out to the farmers. But due to political reasons, it's not happened.
Yeah.
Now, you would reduce carbon, the sustainability problem by almost 30% if you just did one thing, which is spend between 2,000 to 3,000 crores on buying these equipment and giving it free or whatever way you want to do it. You would cut all the issues of this thing. So when I'm not worried about when you do development and you have problems of sustainability. I have great problem when due to political and stupid reasons, we are not able to reduce the problem regarding the environment. So if I'm making a building for the slums and that causes a problem of carbon, I'm going to do it because I have to give these people housing. And I don't want the United States of America telling me why I'm doing that. I'm not going to listen to them, and we are not going to listen to Trump also. So the question is, the development cannot be compromised, but sustainability is imperative. And we will do it, and we are doing it. But don't compare development completed with the Western world and tell the developing world what we should do. We know what we want to do, and we will do it. Yeah. Of course, we are not doing it 100%. We are doing it, again, 75%. We have 25% way to go to improve our situation. But I hate when politics comes in the way of doing an issue, when real problems are not the real problems, but those problems are the kind of problems we have to solve. That's horrible.
And
but
okay,
barring that, we are with you.
No, please don't follow. Please, sorry, we are actually, the organizers have just given us a few more minutes. We are actually out of time. So those two at the very back, no, please, the person at the back first, and then these three questions we'll take together and we'll answer them and then we'll wrap up. Can you go first to the last lady at the back row? We'll take all three questions together, please.
My question is with regard to AI causing disruption and the stock of skilling and upskilling. Has industry identified what skills are actually needed? Like Mr. Hiranandani mentioned plumbers, fitters. So
yeah, we'll
is
come
that
back.
what we are looking at?
We'll ask Mr. Joshi. Then the second lady, please.
Good morning to all. I'm Prachi Nimkar from Eco Support Private Limited. My question is connecting to Hiranandani sir just now what he said. The intervening from outside on the political one, and like relating to the very recent legal compliance 2 days back, the NGT Supreme Court order had almost stalled 700 projects. And when we are talking about infrastructure on a larger scale, our own legal compliances, I'm an environmentalist, but the amount of projects which were stalled were causing more environmental pollution just because of an archaic law as such.
Just to keep you updated, day before yesterday, Supreme Court has changed that direction, and now all those projects will be clear.
Yes, they are coming back to the state. But in case where it is basic, the air we breathe, when we talk about carbon footprint. So the richest of the richest is also breathing the same air, and the poorest of the poor is also breathing the same air.
What's the question, please?
So the question is why it is that one is the intervening from the outside, but even the political legal compliances within our country are not on one page. And this is happening for so long with not everyone on one page. So what efforts do we have towards that?
But the last question, very last question.
Sir, my question is to you as an economist, a certain crystal gazing, sir. Is the fact that, do you think a population density per square meter will be a bottleneck to achieving whatever we do want to?
All right, That's not fair because I'm just the traffic policeman. So now we just have 3 or 4 minutes. I will request all the panelists to just make a brief remark, including answering questions for AI skill training, the sustainability, air quality that we breathe, and unfortunately I have to answer about this population density. So we'll start with Mr. Joshi and come all the way here.
Sure, okay. So, let's understand that AI will intervene for anything which is, repetitive in nature. So if anything which is like an assembly line, in terms of what today humans do, that is a first candidate for AI to come and automate, right? Having said that, you will still require human because AI as a technology, it's still far from being very mature. So there are things like hallucinations and things like that. So you will still require human coming in and then verifying, validating what AI has done. So I think that's the process now. There is a great article actually yesterday in Economic Times in terms of which jobs first will come under question in terms of AI coming in, but will that completely get 100% eliminated? No, I think the answer is no. You will still require humans to come and validate what AI is saying. Just to answer your specific question.
Okay, just one or two lines, closing lines, Mr. Pherwani.
So I've been in media for 25 years, and if anyone asks me what's the one best thing about my industry, there's no reservation when it comes to actors and directors. And I think if that's something that can be replicated, that's why we are the #1 content production state in the country.
Okay. Mr. Hiranandani, just two lines.
I want to focus on education.
Yeah.
I think there is a lot of opportunity on education and skilling. I think education is just 65 years old, though we have had the new policy into place, but we haven't actually got it down right.
Absolutely.
So when I come out of
He's
college,
also the chancellor of a university, by the way.
yeah, so we're trying to make some changes, but not enough for the country. So we are looking at the issue of how to get education and skilling and blend these two.
Absolutely.
So we want the schools also to start skilling and not wait till you come to the final year of college to learn skilling.
Yes.
So we want the skilling to start in schools. That's the thought.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Chhatwal.
It should be everybody's aspiration to focus on sustainable and inclusive growth, but please, let's not become more Catholic than the Pope.
Thank you.
I think we've gone into the nitty-gritties, but my take is that Maharashtra will reach 1 trillion. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And that requires unleashing of animal spirit. I will use Sudhanshu's framework here. We can use 3I and I add to another I to that. Sudhanshu mentioned about innovation, inclusive, and impact, and I will add to that as an implementation also. So if the government can be a little bit more focused on innovation, make Maharashtra as an innovation hub for across all sectors, not just for a BFSI, I think that would add feathers to it, and also be more inclusive. We need to have a maybe fund for MSME, we need to go and have more lending for microfinance way and so on, so we can get more inclusive. And then impact. What is high impact? If cleaning Maharashtra, making Maharashtra look neat and clean can have a high impact, let's do it, involve everyone. And implementation, as everyone was talking, is really the key. They can get more nimble and again involve industry to do the implementation better. Thank you.
So thank you. So now I have the privilege of closing the session. Since there was a question on population density, I am not worried about population density. I am worried about vehicle density. They say that a developed country is not where poor people can afford a car. A developed country is where rich people prefer to take public transportation. So that is a short answer. So I will just wrap up. Everybody has talked about skill gap and some regulatory ease of compliance. Mr. Niranjan said about macro reality and micro reality. So there will be lots of thoughts. It's impossible for me to summarize in a minute, but you can see that there's lots going on. Mumbai is a very fantastic and dynamic city, but Mumbai is part of Maharashtra and it's going to lead. As an economist, I would also like to mention this, that Mumbai is a tremendous growth pole, but we have to worry about balanced development. It's not going to be balanced, it's going to be unbalanced, but really Mumbai carries the huge burden of the entire state, and it's a great responsibility. He's a chancellor, and as a former vice chancellor, I also would like to emphasize its skilling and education is really the key to sustainable, inclusive, and fast economic growth. There is nothing. Since in the beginning I mentioned Swami Vivekananda and his guru, 1836, so that's an appropriate way to close. It's Swami Vivekananda himself who said there's the magic word, which will be the magic bullet, sort of, which is a solution to everything, is education, education, education. So thank you all for being such patient audience, and thank you to the panelists. Thank you.
Thank Thank you, panelists. We request you a huge round of applause for our distinguished guests. We request you to stay on as I invite Mr. Sudhanshu Watts to present you all with a token of appreciation from the chamber. A huge round of applause for our distinguished guests. Thank you. Thank you so much.